Hi friends, we are live. It is CFLW. We are live on this Sunday evening, getting you prepared for another hard freeze across Central Florida. Rusty with you here. Hope you are doing well. Hope you guys survived a brutally cold night. Man, oh man, was it freezing. We'll talk about just how cold we got. We'll talk about the impacts that we saw, and then we're going to be getting into just how cold it's going to be overnight. More extreme cold warnings in effect for Central Florida. Just another brutally cold night ahead for you here. Hope everyone's doing well. First of all, appreciate you guys tuning in. Give me a quick second, hit that like button for me as we get started. Another thing to do real quickly here, if you guys don't mind, is let me know in the comment section below how you guys fared. Let me know if you guys were able to get through things okay yesterday, or if there was any kind of damage that either happened to your property or that you saw. I'll show you some of the photos that I received overnight, but obviously things were very iced up. Look. We had the coldest weather in Central Florida in at least 16 years area-wide, but there were some record lows that were broken that were more than 115 years old, guys. This was a true Arctic air mass in place, and temperatures for daytime highs today only got in the low to mid 40s. So as we take a look at the temperatures right now, you know, they're already falling back into the mid and the upper 30s. We are on the precipice of seeing some areas get below freezing again. And although we may not get the coldest temperatures this morning or tomorrow morning compared to this morning, we might be a few degrees warmer, it's still going to be a hard freeze. There is still going to be many hours duration wise of a freeze in most areas, and there are still going to be more problems as we go overnight. How's everyone doing? Hey, Teresa, how you doing? Teresa in the house from Kissimmee, papaya tree dead. Not good. No doubt about that. Some of the citrus and some of the sensitive plants took it on the nose last night. Hi, Fiona. How you doing, my friend? 37 feels like 31. Records? I've got records galore. How you doing, Valerie? Cold, getting old. Good news is I didn't freeze up last night. We got another challenge tonight. Yes, we do indeed. Hey, Chessie, how you doing? Good evening to you as well. 37 in Spring Hill, got down to 22. The high today, only 42. That is the story. Look, we broke almost every record low this morning in Central Florida, across the state, basically. And then for daytime highs today, we likely broke minimum daytime highs for February the 1st. The fact that the daytime high in somewhere like Spring Hill or Orlando was 42 to 45 degrees, that is going to break the all-time coldest it ever was for a daytime high on February 1st. Before I get too far along, of course, I want to let you guys know that Lean Law is the sponsor of this live stream of Central Florida Weather Live. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. Look, unfortunately, if you sustain any damage from the ice storm this morning, or unfortunately, if you get damage overnight to tomorrow morning, they can help you out. They'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Listen, I went through a headache of an insurance claim about 5-6 years ago. I wish I knew about Bobby Lean and the team at Lean Law, because it would have made things go so much smoother. They offer free consultation and policy review, so you got nothing to lose. So if unfortunately you did sustain some damage from this cold weather, reach out to them by going to leanonmelaw.com for more information. All right, so let's get into what's happening right now in these records. Of course, this is a live only stream, so I don't really talk much about things that have happened in the past, but because I was on last night and we were talking about how cold it was going to be, I just want to go back and let you guys know that all of the temperatures that we discussed last night for this morning, they all verified. I'll freeze it here at 7:30 with actual temperatures, but let me show you this, guys. Here we go. Daytona this morning. I keep saying yesterday, it's this morning. 23 degrees for the morning low in Daytona. Not only did they break a record low, that's the coldest Daytona has ever been at any point in time ever in the month of February. They broke a February all-time record low down to 23 degrees. Sanford did the same thing, getting down to 25, an all-time February record low. Melbourne did the same thing, an all-time February record low of 25 degrees. Leesburg tied an all-time February low down to 23. Orlando broke the daily record low of 24. That's what we got this morning, 24. Brooksville, 22. I had it 23, tying the record. They actually snuck down one more degree down to 22. That's a daily record low. Ruskin, 29. St. Pete at 36 this morning. That tied a daily record low. Ocala hit 20, right on the exact number I thought they would get down to. Their old record was 24. They shattered that down to 20 for a daily record low. Other areas that at least broke a daily record low, and I haven't been able to verify if these were all-time February lows, include DeLand, Claremont, Winter Haven, New Smyrna Beach, all in at 23. DeLand, Claremont, Winter Haven, New Smyrna Beach all had daily record lows at 23 this morning. Kissimmee, 24. Cocoa Beach, 27. Titusville, 28. And Palm Coast down to 22 degrees. And that's not even all of them, but I just wanted to stop there. So that's how cold it got. If you guys had a backyard thermometer, you let me know exactly what you guys saw this morning as well. It's not going to, again, shock me in our far northwest areas if we might have even been able to sneak down into the upper teens. You guys also sent me some photos, so let me show you guys from this as well. A very common sight, a lot of iced up fountains, as you would expect to see. I mean, if the water wasn't running or if it was just as a trickle, you were going to ice up those fountains. By the way, absolutely beautiful fountains. If these are personal home fountains, I am jealous because they are absolutely fantastic. Look on the left, guys. I don't know whether that was because the sprinklers were on or what caused that chair, that metal chair, to ice up like it did, but doesn't it look like the ice throne, something that should be on Game of Thrones? I mean, my goodness, isn't that gorgeous? And then on the right-hand side of your screen, we talked about not leaving the sprinklers on, right? If you left the sprinklers on overnight, and I know some of you probably did on purpose, this is what you got. You can clearly see the sprinklers have basically weighed down the lower third of that tree. And there's certainly the opportunity that some of those branches could break. But that is a smattering of some of the photos. A couple of photos that my family actually sent me. My sister sent me a picture from the Lakeland area here. You can see the freeze there again in a water feature. And this is my brother in the Seffner area. They have a backyard, a smaller fountain. But you can clearly see there just east of the Tampa area that we had a good freeze there. So very common sight, right? We pretty much all saw freezing conditions yesterday morning in Central Florida outside of Pinellas County and some of the coastal areas of Pasco County. Well, we're running it back again tonight and into our Monday morning, where again, we are going to see a hard freeze through a lot of areas. So if for some reason you didn't get all the preps done last night that we talked about, I hope you took that information, put it to good use, and got it ready to go for tonight and into Monday morning, because again, it's going to be another problem. We're not going to get as cold, but it is still going to be exceptionally cold. It's going to be the coldest still in many, many years outside of yesterday morning, and we're likely to see additional freeze problems. Now, the one thing that's going to be absent compared to what we had last night and this morning is the wind. The winds continue to die down. So let's take a look at the current conditions across the area here. Again, Cross City is already down to 28. They're already below freezing here as we have hit for their number at 7:15. Ocala is down to 36, 39 in Orlando, 36 in Crystal River. Inverness has already hit freezing down to 32 degrees. Leesburg 37, Sanford is in at 39. A lot of upper 30s right now in Volusia County. So again, our daytime highs were only in the low and the mid 40s. We didn't have much of a peak, and so we're quickly dropping off with the clear skies and the exceptionally dry air. Zephyr Hills is down to 37. We have a lot of 37s, as I said, for Titusville. Same thing down towards Melbourne. Satellite Beach in at 43. Same thing for the Port St. John area. Winter Haven 39. We have 41 right now in Plant City towards Brandon. Downtown Tampa, South Tampa 43, St. Pete 46, Zephyr Hills 37, and Spring Hill right now coming in at 36. So earlier than last night, we already have some areas at or below freezing. You would think, okay, big time problem. Thankfully, the air mass is modifying just a little bit. And although we're going to be colder earlier compared to last night. Temperatures aren't going to drop as quickly. That north wind, that northwest wind yesterday really pushed in the colder air really quick. That was the basis of that front coming in. So the air is just not going to be as significantly strong, relatively speaking, to push in colder air. But the air mass that's in place is cold enough. Again, we've had some wind gusts from time to time the last hour or so, but not the 30, 40, and 50-mile-an-hour winds we had this time yesterday evening. It'll still be a little bit breezy from time to time late on this Sunday night, but as we head overnight, the winds will continue to diminish, and feels like temperatures or your wind chill values in most spots won't be too much colder than the actual temperature. From time to time, we'll get some gusts, but when I show you guys my morning lows for tomorrow and then the minimum wind chill values, they're not gonna be as cold as this morning, but still frightfully cold. And now we're talking about not a Sunday morning, but now we're talking about a Monday morning. We're getting the kids back to school. A lot more people are getting back out to work earlier tomorrow, and you got to be dressed and prepared for the temperatures. Right now, feels like numbers that you see on your screen are right around the freezing mark. At MCO, same thing in Leesburg, Ocala in at 30. Daytona Beach hitting 32 right now. Same thing for Crystal River. Palm Bay, it feels like 33. Let me jump back into the chat. Hey, Larry, how you doing this evening? I hope you're doing well, my friend. Valley says consecutive nights in the 20s. Yep. So again, we didn't have too many hours above freezing here, guys. It took a while. There were a lot of spots that didn't get above freezing until late this morning, if not even the lunchtime hour. So you only had, what may end up being about 8 hours above freezing, and then temperatures really dropping off like a rock again. And, for me, I have solar panels. Notice there's a little bit of ice on one of them, so there's definitely a little bit of leaking of some kind. I got to go check it out when it gets warmer, but that's the thing. And we're going to get into, again, the things that you need to do to prepare as we get back into the cold. But hopefully last night was a very good, wake-up call, if you will, and that these preps need to be back into place for tonight and into tomorrow morning as well. You got it, Rhea. My pleasure. Fiona, it is colder than that now. Yeah, no doubt. Appreciate that. Valerie says 34 in Hernando, 33 in Deltona from O-Town Magic. Feels like it's 26. It's cold. There's no doubt about it. Okay. So let's talk about how things are going to be breaking down. And again, amazing amount of records. Coldest that we've seen in quite some time. So let's get into what's going to be happening tonight. What are the differences, right? What are the things that are going to be changing? First thing I want to do actually real quickly here is before I show you those graphics, let me just switch my weather computer over to the advisories. So this time yesterday, the entire peninsula all the way down to northwest Miami was under this blue, which is the extreme cold warning. Well, guess what? We still have an extreme cold warning for portions of the Orlando metro area, down I-95 from Daytona Beach all the way towards Jupiter. And it's really basically just dependent on the Weather Service offices. This is the Weather Service office out of Melbourne that services these areas. Out west is going to be the Weather Service office out of Tampa, which is Ruskin. And then up in Marion County, Flagler County, it's going to be out of the Jacksonville Weather Service forecast office. Look, all of the forecast offices could have issued extreme cold warnings, but they decided not to. It is what it is. But for the Orlando metro area, the extreme cold warning is for wind chill values of 14 to 20 degrees, right? And freezing temperatures 22 to 27. Again, there will still be some lower 20s. There will still be some areas with double-digit an hour freeze duration tonight, okay? So I don't want to underscore or, play off that, yes, it might be slightly warmer tonight. It is still going to be exceptionally cold, and there's a lot of areas that are going to be well below freezing for many, many hours, which will continue to cause some problems if you're not fully prepared for it here. And then, of course, still the freeze warning. And basically all the freeze warning is saying, of course, is that, yes, we do expect there to be not just a frost, but a very hard freeze. And a hard freeze is very dangerous to citrus crops, is very dangerous to your tender tropical vegetation, and obviously it causes problems when you're talking about outdoor pumps and pool equipment and anything that is susceptible to some of the colder air. Then almost everyone else outside of some coastal areas, coastal Citrus County, and then, but I'm not even sure it's called Citrus County. It's probably just western Hillsborough and Pinellas counties, and then down to coastal Manatee and Sarasota that are not under freeze warnings. Everyone else is still expected to get at or below freezing, and that does include the downtown Tampa area and then all of Metro Tampa north and east of downtown. So again, for them, the freeze warning is for temperatures as cold as 22 and wind chills right around 20. I still expect there to be the opportunity that some wind chill values will get into the teens, maybe even the low to mid-teens briefly, but again, the winds should continue to relax. They're not gonna be nearly as strong as what they were last night, so your actual air temperature and your feels like temperature is going to be a lot closer together for most of the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning. So that's a look at the advisories, the warnings, and what else is in place right now. Let's kind of break down what I'm expecting. Again, still a hard freeze for tonight. Yes, not as cold, but there is still a long duration freeze for many, something you really need to be paying attention to. Many areas are going to experience around 6 to 12 hours of sub-freezing temperatures. And that was probably the hardest graphic for me to put together, to be quite honest, because I think it's going to be a lot more dependent tonight in very local fashions, but we'll get into that coming up in a second. But there are still going to be many areas. Look, most years, if we were talking about a 6 to 12 hour freeze here in Central Florida, it would be the most significant freeze in years. We just happen to have the coldest weather in some spots historically in February this morning, where 6 to 12 is actually lower than what we had this morning. So many more record lows are going to be broken tomorrow morning, and I'll show you that coming up. And again, an extreme cold warning for some of our area, wind chill values into the teens. Winds will be much lighter overnight, and of course, dangerous boating conditions. Now, one thing, and I'm going to ask everyone in the chat, let me know. First of all, have you guys experienced any kind of rolling blackouts? Okay. I got a text. I'm a Duke Energy customer. Got a text from Duke Energy which said basically, hey, we are under a big time power strain, a big time load strain. And if you guys don't ease up a little bit on the power usage, we might have to do some rolling blackouts between 5 and 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So just curious, maybe you're a Duke Energy customer as well. Maybe you're one of the other customers in Central Florida. You know, let me know if you have had to deal with a rolling blackout, which is not fun in this kind of cold weather, or whether you got a text like I did that said basically, look, there's a big time, push on the energy grid right now, and we're really concerned about potentially having to do some blackouts for tomorrow morning. Chester says no rolling blackouts here with WREC. There were a lot of cold tender days last night. Yeah, no doubt about it. Not here yet. Hey, Garrett, how you doing? Hope you're doing well, my friend. Yes, Fiona, tomorrow night will be warmer. I still think we could touch freezing in a couple of spots tomorrow morning, but the duration of the freeze will not be significant enough to cause any big problems. Remember, it's not just about whether you hit freezing, it's about whether it's cold enough, long enough to cause any big problems. Just because you hit 32 briefly, you're not going to snap your finger and freeze up. It does take some time. That's why these long duration freezes have caused the unprecedented pictures that you guys have seen. You know, so many of the theme park fountains, the Universal Ball, did you guys see that there? You know, froze up at the bottom, but just so many large water features and trees and fountains all just frozen up, obviously. And I hope you guys dripped those pipes yesterday as well. So here's Winter Park. Live look outside from the lean log cam. Oh, by the way, before I go too much farther, who saw flurries last night? I am very curious about that. I didn't want to get anyone's hopes up last night because I knew that we weren't going to have any concentrated flurries. But I have seen several pictures, especially along the West Coast, but a few even in interior locations of a couple of flakes here or there. So I'm just curious if you guys happened to see any of that last night. I didn't personally hear where I live, but again, you know, even down into Southwest Florida along the coast, there were a few flakes from time to time. I wouldn't even call them snow flurries. You know, they just weren't concentrated enough, but there were a couple of gentle flakes falling from time to time. So just really curious if anyone actually happened to see that last night. I just didn't want to give anyone's hopes up, you know, that, yeah, we're actually going to really get into some flurries. But yeah, there was just enough moisture to squeeze out a couple of light flakes. Heard the land got flurries. I heard Pinellas County, yeah, Tampa. I heard several areas here and there. It was like this smattering, and you know, the video I saw, you had to look real close and you would catch one from time to time. And then there were others where, yeah, you could actually see a few, you know, in the camera shot every couple of seconds. It wasn't bad. A few flakes in Sanford, there you go. Was checking my plants, yep. And again, some of them were that really fine granular kind, right? Not even the big flakes, just the really, really small ones. But it just shows you how cold the air mass was in place even during yesterday evening. So again, Winter Park camera here. Skies are clear. The air is even drier. Unfortunately, we're not going to see any chance for any flurries tonight. That's the moon from the Conway cam. About 20 minutes before I came on, that moonlight was just shining bright from our camera. Again, we're looking east from the Conway area, southeast side of downtown Orlando. Skies are crystal clear. Again, still a bit of a breeze. You can see that both on the moonshine there, the moon reflecting off. Well, now I'm right over that, what I wanted to show. But you can see the moon reflecting off of the lake water there. Just a little bit of a ripple, a little bit of a breeze, but nothing as significant. And man, oh man, has it been a frightfully cold day at the attractions. You know, obviously, you know, you live in Central Florida. You probably have friends or family who head to the attractions a lot, or someone who works there. And the pictures I saw for today were just people who were bundled up in a really cold day. But again, skies are nice and clear across that area right now. So let's again get into what you need to do for tonight. I updated a couple of things, but basically all of the protocols we talked about last night for this morning are right back into effect for tonight, because the duration of the freeze is still long enough to cause significant freezing and ice issues. Again, for tomorrow, it'll be a little bit warmer in the afternoon. Instead of being in the 40s, we'll be back into the 50s, but it's still way colder than what we normally see in early February. So again, minimize your time outdoors. Dress in layers, cover exposed skin. You can absolutely be outside. I was outside for a time today, but you just want to make sure you're dressed appropriately, and please make sure the kids are dressed appropriately as well, especially if they get out to the school bus stop tomorrow morning. Again, you know, they do not want to be in just one layer tomorrow, even if it's jeans and a long sleeve shirt. I mean, please make sure hats, gloves, scarves, the more skin that's covered, the better everything is going to be. Same situation for tonight with the hoses and the faucets. We're going to disconnect the hoses from the outdoor faucets. If you have an opportunity to take a towel, wrap it around the faucet to insulate the pipe, do that. Make sure you drip those pipes. Nice steady drip out there. We want moving water. Still water is what freezes up first. And turn off the sprinklers, right? Again, you know, some folks forgot. I think some folks did it on purpose. It makes a nice display at a sheet of ice, but that's what you're going to get in your yard again tonight. Again, cover sensitive plants. It's going to be a big time problem out there again. Move them indoors if you can. Getting them close to your home is another idea, because again, we're radiating some of the heat that has been absorbed by the home during the day. It might help a little bit. But again, highs today were only in the 40s, so not as much heat today as even yesterday. Run those pools. Run the water features, make sure the solar panels are on. Basically, you want the water continuing to flow through all of this system, all of your pool system overnight through Monday. My plan is to just let my pool continue to run right on through the overnight hours, and then it will automatically shut off on Monday afternoon and evening, and it'll be fine. Now, my pool system, I think a lot of you do. Mine is not even the newest system. I don't even have a smart app for it. But I have a freeze protect on mine where I can actually set the temperature to the air temperature I want for it to kick in. I set it way above freezing just to make sure that I have a big buffer. If you have that opportunity, you might want to do that for tomorrow night, because in a couple of areas could still drop below freezing. While it won't be a long duration freeze for Tuesday morning, you want to be on the safe side, you can do that. Here's one that I picked up reading some information today that I thought was interesting. If you live in a community like mine and you have a backflow preventer, you guys know those things that look like you have a couple of valves here or there, just so it doesn't allow the bad water, the sewage, whatever, to kind of backflow into your home. you might want to wrap that. There is a brass valve in there that could freeze up, okay? I think, it's not completely necessary, but if you want to take an extra precaution step, you could just take a towel and wrap up that valve in the backflow preventer if you have one. So just an idea for those who have one of those. Please remember your pets. Bring them inside. Make sure you got food. Make sure the water is not frozen outside as well. And again, we're checking on everyone. We checked on the tender dates yesterday. Well, tonight we're checking on the elderly, our neighbors, our family, our friends, and of course, your MySpace connections. And if some reason you actually still know you're logged into MySpace, that's what I really want to know. But if you do know your MySpace connections, please make sure that they understand how cold it's going to get as we get into tomorrow morning. I have no idea if MySpace still exists, Larry. Just thought I'd come up with a little something funny. Meme says, has anyone set the air conditioner to above freezing like 70-ish and woke up or was set back down to 60s? Good question. My wife was telling me that she was reading some post of people who were talking about how cold it got in their home in Central Florida this morning when they didn't have the heat on. And I think 54 was the lowest I saw, but it wouldn't surprise me if some homes that did not turn on their heat got even colder than that. And then talking about the outdoor stadium series Tampa Bay NHL game. Yeah, look, I think folks are going to love it, right? Yep, Garrettson, North Carolina, he got 8 inches of snow. How about that? No power problems in Altamont Springs. Thank you, Fiona. No blackout from FPL, Florida Power and Light. Thank you, Alex, for that. O-Town Magic says, I have Duke. I didn't lose power, but other people in the area did lose power. I saw that there were some folks who did lose power. Hopefully just the rolling blackout situation. Hopefully it didn't last too long. But I thought it was very interesting that Duke sent me that text, and actually subsequently an email as well, that stated basically, hey, look, we're monitoring the strain on the grid, and we're really concerned about the energy usage tomorrow between 5 and 9 a.m. And just to let you know, try and, shut off all non-essential electronics, because if you don't, the overall consumption being too great, we might have to do some rolling blackouts. So I thought that was an interesting thing. Here are the dew points, by the way. The air again last night was bone dry, but look at these dew points, guys. Now, the interesting thing about it is the air was actually slightly drier at the early afternoon hours. The dew points, believe it or not, in the mid-afternoon here's the MCO recording, 45 degrees with a dew point of 7. Okay? I don't know where the 3 is coming from, because that should be dew point. Okay. Anyway, but single-digit dew points. It's actually come up a little bit tonight. So we're actually funneling in just a little bit of moisture right now. That's another reason why I don't expect morning lows to be as cold. We're actually bringing in just a little bit more moisture. Now, it's all relative, right? It's extremely difficult to have the air in Florida stay as dry as it has the last 36 hours. So, and if you guys know, remember, you can't get colder than your dew point. That's 100% relative humidity. That's saturated air. Now, saturating the air mass in a 20-degree dew point situation means the air is still bone dry, but you get the idea that, we're going to likely settle into the 20s here, but probably a few degrees warmer. The interesting thing about it right now is that my morning low in Crystal River is colder than that. So Crystal River is actually going to have to dry back out a little bit in order to see, just double checking a dew point of 27, in order to see a morning low a little bit cooler. I think, there could be a little bit of moisture coming in from time to time, and the dew points are going to drop back and forth. But, beginning tomorrow afternoon, we're going to be back into a bit of a warming trend. Showing you guys the infrared satellite imagery as well. Again, skies are extremely clear. By the way, if you haven't heard about what's been happening along the Carolina coastline, they got hammered from Myrtle Beach up towards OBX, significant snow. I mean, I saw a video driving in Myrtle Beach. It was hilarious. Piles of snow, palm trees. That's what Myrtle Beach saw. OBX, That bomb cyclone developed just off of the coastline, and there was significant snow bursts and winds there in places like Kitty Hawk and Duck and along the OBX there. Not good situation. Leilani says FPL shut off power today from 10 a.m. till 6 in Satellite Beach. Wow. Is it back on right now, I'm assuming, for everyone? Let me know, Leilani. Reyes says, yeah, we got that text from Duke also. Jojo says, haven't heard yet. Hopefully it's not everyone, right? I mean, I hope that they're not talking about the entire grid. It could be specific grids. I don't know, but it's in my recent memory the first time I've ever gotten a text like that from Duke. But again, this is unprecedented cold that we've had in quite some time here as well. All right, so let's get into what I expect for tomorrow morning, guys. That's why you guys are here. Let's break it down. And again, if you guys have any questions about the forecast, feel free to let me know in the comments section below. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm on right now. And of course, I'm going to have my live stream, just like I did last night, that'll be running overnight if you guys want to check in. That was really well received, by the way, and I appreciate that as well. I'm going to leave the chat open, and I'll talk more about that coming up. But we've got you covered with our live stream of the radar system and all of our graphics and our live cameras overnight and into Monday morning. So let's break down what I expect to happen tonight. We'll start here. Here's the freeze duration in hours. Now, this was probably the toughest graphic for me to make, right? Because you saw that the dew points were coming up a little bit. And I think for me, what I was really trying to figure out with the models, and it was much harder tonight, to be honest, compared to this morning, was the rates that the temperatures are going to drop overnight. They're not going to drop as quickly as they did last night into tomorrow morning, or excuse me, last night into this morning compared to tonight into tomorrow morning. All right. So here's what I expect for the Orlando metro area. We're likely to see somewhere of around a 6, 7, or 8 hour freeze. Again, it's a hard freeze. Temperatures are going to be below freezing long enough for all kinds of problems outside. Cold weather preps, just like you did last night, need to be right back into effect for tomorrow morning as well. The duration may be a few hours less than what we had last night into this morning, but still an exceptional amount. Sanford, Deltona, about 8 hours. And I would say give or take an hour or two in almost every location outside of Tampa, and I'll talk about that coming up. So again, many areas will go below freezing tonight between 9 and 11, and a couple of already knocking at the door at 8 o'clock. And you will see your live temperatures through many cities across Central Florida update live for you guys at the bottom of your screen. It's a wonderful ticker that we have for you here at CFLW, so you can watch those temperatures in real time. You go north and west, this is where we could still see double-digit in hours freeze overnight. Ocala, about a 12-hour freeze, including Bellevue in the Silver Springs area as well. Towards the Villages, about an 11-hour freeze. Wildwood included in that as well. The Leesburg, Eustis, Umatilla, Tavares area towards Mount Dora, about a 9-hour freeze. Out west, Crystal River, Inverness, Lecanto, Homosassa Springs, about a 10-hour freeze. Again, significant freeze. Morning lows there, low to mid 20s. Spring Hill, about an 8-hour freeze. And again, give or take a couple of hours. Zephyr Hills, about a 7-hour freeze. Lakeland, towards Plant City, about a 6-hour freeze. And then again, Tampa is still that big range because of the impacts of the bays. Near downtown Tampa, 31, 32 degrees, not a significant freeze. We could get below freezing, but probably not a long enough duration to cause any problems. You go just north of there, Carrollwood, Citrus Park, Wesley Chapel, Odessa, places like that, many of the northern suburbs and eastern suburbs of Tampa, and that freeze duration could be up to 5 hours, all right? And then just a little bit farther up the road again, Zephyr Hills, and at 7. Coastal sections of Pasco and all of Pinellas and coastal Manatee and Sarasota counties are not likely to freeze. I'll show you exact numbers coming up, but just like this morning, you are not expected to get at or below 32. To the East Coast, Palm Coast up to St. Augustine, it's about a 10-hour freeze duration there. Again, Palm Coast hit 22 degrees this morning. Ocala hit 20 this morning. Daytona Beach, and I'm repeating this for some folks who didn't join right away when we talked about this at the top of the live stream. Daytona Beach, 23 this morning, an all-time February coldest temperature ever in recorded history. The 23 this morning was the coldest Daytona Beach has ever gotten at any day, February, for any year in recorded history. By the way, Sanford and Melbourne had the same thing. Their numbers were in at 25. You go down I-95, New Smyrna probably around a 6-hour freeze, Titusville, Palm Bay, O'Galley, Melbourne area, right around 4. Same thing for Merritt Island, Sharps, Vieira, 4 to 5 hour freeze, including the Cape. Indian Harbor Beach, Satellite Beach, in the Atlantic, Mico, Barefoot Bay, Palm Bay, 4 to 5 hour freeze for most of my friends there in Brevard County. So when we look at the duration, we're going to go below freezing in some spots between 9 and 11. Some are already getting close at 8 o'clock. More will touch that 32-degree mark at 9, and most of us outside of the Tampa Bay area will be at or below freezing sometime around 11 o'clock tonight, and then it just depends on how quickly you warm up overnight. Between 7 and 9 a.m., most areas will be back above freezing. Garrett has 11 in the mountains. Hey, look, we're not far behind you right now, Garrett. Hard freeze in the early 80s was worse, says Michael. I remember growing up here. I grew up in Citrus County, Crystal River. 89 was a really, really hard winter. There were a lot of teens and 20s, and I was pretty young back then, but just remembered the icicles off of our wooden fence. I mean, they were, 6, 12 inches long and just down this entire row of fencing. So, because we lived on the coast, so there was always a little bit of moisture, and we had those Gulf-induced flurries, just like we saw in some areas last night. And I mentioned that in last night's live stream as well on December 23rd, 1989. I even remember the actual date. Thank you, Fiona, for reminding everyone to do so. Yes, thanks for taking a quick second, hitting the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button right now. Again, this is a live-only channel. I'm only on when there's impactful weather to talk about here in Central Florida. Most of the time, it's severe thunderstorms, tornado warnings, tropical storms, and hurricanes. But in the cold season, it can be these freezes like this or the cold fronts that come in that bring that tornadic risk and the severe thunderstorm risk as well. A little bit more sporadic this time of the year, but again, 2 nights in a row because we got more freezing weather to talk about here as we go overnight. So let's get into my forecast for tomorrow morning. It's going to look like this. The numbers are eerily similar in some spots to the morning lows that you saw this morning. Most areas slightly above, but most areas still below freezing. Now, the one difference, if you look at the purple, is going to be your minimum feels like temperature. Again, the wind is not going to be as significant tonight. It's much lighter outside right now. The air is just so still. There's a different feel to the air. You breathe it in, it hits those lungs, it burns those lungs. But so I'm not expecting the minimum wind chills to be as cold as this morning. And in most areas, your minimum wind chill will probably be around midnight tonight or in the wee hours of tomorrow morning. By the time you wake up, the winds will be so light that the feels like temperature and the actual air temperature will be very close to each other. So I'm not expecting these feels like numbers at 7 a.m. Those minimums are likely to occur more overnight. But still, what's the lowest we could get overnight? There's a lot of mid and upper teens for feels like temperatures to the low to the mid 20s. Then actual air temperatures in most spots still going to be well below freezing. Ocala down to 22 after hitting 20 this morning. Not much better. The Village is 22. Astor Pearson 24. Palm Coast, I've got 25 for your morning low. Daytona Beach running back another record low tomorrow of 28. Again, it's not going to be an all-time February record low. We hit that this morning. Deltona, DeLand, DeBerry, Lake Helen, 25. In Brevard County, Titusville down to 30. Again, a couple hour freeze there. Merritt Island, 28. We have Melbourne, Palm Bay in at 29. Out west, Crystal River, Lecanto, Inverness, Homosassa, right around 24. Feels like temperature cold enough in the upper teens. Most of the night, probably in the lower 20s. Spring Hill area, 26. Feels like temperature down to 21. Mascot, Claremont, 27, with a feels like temperature of 21 degrees. In the metro Orlando area, a lot of mid and upper 20s, okay? Again, a few degrees warmer than this morning, but still an exceptionally cold night with a hard freeze. 27 in the Ocoee Winter Garden area. 26 for Windermere, down towards Dr. Phillips and Bay Hill. Lake Buena Vista, the attractions will start off well below freezing. Again, at least a 6-hour freeze for Lake Buena Vista, down towards Celebration. Kissimmee in at 27 degrees, including St. Cloud and the Buenaventura Lakes area. MCO, Lake Nona, 28. Wedgefield down to 25. You get outlying areas of Metro Orlando, Northwest, Apopka, Wekiva Springs, Mount Dora out east, Chuliota, Avalon Park, Wedgefield, and you're going to be in the mid-20s, 25, 26 degrees, just a couple degrees warmer. Places like downtown, Lake Eola, Winter Park, Conway, on over towards Pine Hills, up the road towards Fairview Shores, Altamont Springs, Winter Springs, Lake Mary, all 26, 27 degrees for the most part. Sanford right around 27 as well. Over to the Tampa Bay area, again, inland, coldest, Lakeland 28, feels like temperature overnight lower 20s, Zephyr Hills 26, upper teens for the coldest minimum morning low feels like temperature, but again, most of that will occur when we're all asleep. By the time we wake up, the air will be very still. So we're still going to get a freeze tonight, right? But it's not going to be that advection freeze. The air is already so cold, we're just going to radiate the heat away. And that freeze is just going to start to accrete and develop on all kinds of surfaces outside. Your windshield, your mailboxes, your bird baths, your water features, anything that can hold a little bit of moisture in an elevated surface. We're going to start to see that again. Obviously, your rooftops included in that. Eastern side of the Tampa area, Mango, Brandon, Seffner, Dover, 29 for a morning low. Valrico included in that as well. Downtown Tampa, I've got right at 32. But up the road in Carrollwood and North, Odessa, Citrus Park areas, up the Veterans, 27 as a minimum for a morning low. A couple of folks could be 28, 29, but still a few hour freeze is likely just north in Metro Tampa. Again, along the coast, Newport Richey, Tarpon Springs, Hudson, 34 the morning low. Not a freeze. Palm Harbor down to Clearwater, 36. In St. Petersburg, getting down to 35 for tomorrow morning. So you go west of the base, around US 19 and west, and you're likely to stay just above freezing. I have Ruskin getting down to 31 degrees tomorrow morning, and the Bradenton, Sarasota area could touch 32. I think, unfortunately, I've got this here. So 34 actually is what I have. I was going to say they're either at or slightly above freezing. So Bradenton, Sarasota, and I'll change this next time. I sometimes forget that I got this lower third here. 34 degrees for the Bradenton, Sarasota area. So if you live in those spots, I'm not expecting there to be a freeze along the immediate west coast. But again, at this point in time right now, temperatures are colder than what they were last night in most spots, right? So here's a nice little 30. Homosassa Springs down to 36. 30 in Inverness already, 34 in Ocala. But the interesting thing about Inverness is they're 30 with a dew point of 28, right? The relative humidity there is actually 93%. So at this point in time, unless drier air comes in, Inverness can't get below 28 degrees. You're welcome, Garrett. My pleasure. Hey, Kevin, good evening to you as well. Lakeland is in the house. Fiona says, we used to use ice skates on the road in some winters as a kid in Northern England. I would imagine. I worked up in upstate New York in Albany for all of 1 year. But in the wintertime, I was talking to some folks who lived up there, and their main mode of transportation was snowmobiles. It was more rural areas, but we're going to, Uncle Joe's house, and we're taking the snowmobile. So absolutely, we all have to change, right? How we go about our daily lives, dependent on the weather. It could be a big factor. That's one reason why I do this, because I know that the weather can impact you here in Central Florida in a lot of different ways. We don't typically see this, but when we do, I got you guys covered. And this is what we've got going on again for tonight as well. Gainesville's already down to 30. And again, this colder air is just coming right down the state. Even on the north side of Lake Okeechobee right now, they're already down to 36 degrees. So we talked about, wrong button, Rusty. We talked about all of the records that broke yesterday or this morning. Sorry, I keep talking about yesterday because I'm talking about tomorrow night as well. And so I'm getting all my days confused. But the list of those that broke record lows and all-time February record lows is pretty much every reporting station in Central Florida. Daytona, Leesburg, Sanford, Orlando, Melbourne, Brooksville, Ruskin, St. Pete, Ocala, DeLand, Claremont, Winter Haven, New Smyrna Beach, Kissimmee, Cocoa Beach, Titusville, Palm Coast, and I promise you that's not the exhaustive list. There's going to be others as well. So what are we looking at for morning lows tomorrow relative to breaking records? Here we go. In Orlando, my forecast low is 28. The record low in Orlando is actually just at freezing at 32. So once again, we're going to break another record low in Orlando tomorrow morning, and we're not just going to slowly creep past it. We're going to break it by 4 degrees. Look, when you can break a record by more than 1 or 2 degrees, that is significant. To break an all-time daily record low by more than 1 or 2 degrees is a really significant, on the ends of the bell curves, whether you're talking about morning lows or afternoon highs. Because now a lot of records, even here in Florida, are out 120, 150 years, depending on the locations. The record low this morning in Brooksville for February 1st broke a record low from 1909. It was 117 years old. It was 23. Brooksville got down to 22. Tampa, again, did not break a record this morning, and I'm not expecting them to do it again. Their record low is actually 30 degrees for tomorrow morning. I've got them in right at freezing at 32. Daytona, again, all-time February record low this morning. They will get down to a daily record low tomorrow of 28 degrees. The record is 32. Brooksville, I have them tying it, just like I did yesterday at 23, and they snuck down to 22. So could Brooksville get down to 24 and break another record low? Absolutely, but they've got them tying it at 25. Lakeland's record low tomorrow morning is 32. That should fall by some 4 degrees. I've got them in at 28. And St. Pete, which tied a record low this morning at 36, is likely to tie another record low tomorrow morning, getting down to 35 degrees. Ocala broke a record low this morning, getting down to 20, which is what my forecast was. Well, I've got them down at 22 degrees for tomorrow morning. Their record low is 24. Sanford says goodbye to the record probably at 1 a.m. tonight, maybe even a little bit earlier. 33 is it for Sanford. Now, Sanford's records do not go as far back in time, okay? One of the newer official reporting stations in Central Florida. So they do not have the history of some of the other cities, but we're still going to shatter that record low down to 27. And Melbourne's record low should fall easily as well. The record low there is 33, and my forecast is in at 30 degrees. Again, to be clear here, the freeze duration is still extremely significant across all of Central Florida tonight and into tomorrow morning. All of the preps that we talked about for last night into this morning, please take those again. 1 to 2 hour freeze is enough in a couple of areas, especially a 2+ hour freeze. But when we're talking about a minimum in the Metro Orlando area of 6, 7, or 8 hours, and then Northwest areas 9 to 12 hours, that is, again, a hard freeze, which can really have significant impacts if you don't take the preps for the plants, the pipes, the people, your property, all the P's that you want to throw out there would be a good idea. Going back over this list, again, what you guys need to do, if you guys are just tuning in, here's what I got for you. Updated a little bit from yesterday, but again, everything we talked about last night is right back into play. And again, chat, you guys let me know. You want to add anything to this list? Let me know in the comments section below as well. By the way, our new system, which is going to be debuting a little bit later in 2026, we could probably sit here real time on air and come up with a graphic together. Literally, I could type it out and have it pop up on screen. So I'm looking forward to that. We might have a little bit more interaction that way as well, where you guys give me some suggestions like this. And it just depends on the situation. Obviously, if I'm in a tornado warning, we're covering that tornado warning. We're not going to be sitting here talking about graphics like this. But in a situation like this, if you guys want to throw a comment in, let me know in the comment section below. And again, community situation here. We want to help everyone out. We had a question last night about water pumps that got me interested in other types of outdoor equipment I wasn't thinking about last night. And one of those that I researched a little bit was the backflow preventers, which actually my neighborhood has. So I have one. A backflow preventer prevents, it's that U-shaped bar, it's got a valve in the middle or several valves, prevents all the bad water from flowing back into the home and into the drinking water. And so you might want to wrap that up. What you would do is there's just a brass valve, just wrap that in a towel, just insulate a little bit. It can freeze. It's probably one of those things you don't necessarily have to do, but just kind of breaking down some of the preventive things. Because again, how many times here in Central Florida do we really have to go through all these preps? So we might as well just take advantage of the knowledge. We're not gonna have to do it every night, just get it out there. Don't forget about the animals, there's no doubt about it. Once this building codes might have to change. It's just a different situation, you know. The insulation for some of the piping is just not as significant. You know, we talked about that last night. So you do have to plan in a different way than others, there's no doubt. So let's break this down. Again, for yourselves, minimize those times outdoors. You can absolutely be outside even in the morning. It will be milder tomorrow afternoon. I've got highs in the 50s. It's still chilly, but that's not bad. Just make sure you dress in layers. Just make sure you dress appropriately. Cover the exposed skin. Please remember the kids tomorrow morning. That is my big highlight tonight when we're talking about getting prepared for tomorrow morning, especially teenagers. If they're heading out to the bus, they may just not think twice about it. And yes, they might understand it's cold, but you know, if they got to be out in the bus stop, they do not want to be in just one layer. Just make sure that they have a couple on, hats, gloves, scarves, absolutely. Again, to protect your property, if you have an outside faucet, disconnect the hose, okay? Drip that outside faucet. Nice little drip of water coming. We want moving water. That's a lot harder for it to freeze if the water is moving. If you think about a cold stream that you guys see maybe in the Rockies when they're doing some whitewater rafting, all that white water, it's not frozen up. It's the still water on the sides that is iced up because that still water doesn't have that movement, which is allowing it to not freeze up. So we want to drip those faucets to do the same situation, and obviously turn off the sprinklers unless you want a sheet of ice on your yard. Cover the sensitive plants, all the tropical plants. Again, I didn't take out any of the covers that we had on last night, just left them on. If you have an opportunity to move some of those sensitive vegetation indoors, I would suggest that as well. Every feature you have for your pool, make sure it is on and running. So run your pool, run your water features, your waterfalls, make sure your solar panels are automatically on and the water is flowing through that as well. I'm sure a lot of folks probably woke up and saw a little bit of ice in some of that piping, maybe some of the solar panels. I know I did. Right? So hopefully it's just one of those leaks and one of those, expandable joints within the solar panels, but I didn't even worry about it today. Too dang cold up there. I'll deal with it later. It was just a little bit of ice, but you're probably going to get an idea of whether you have a little bit of leak in the solar panels if you see a bit of ice there as well. Again, we talked about the backflow preventers. Please remember your pets. So many of you guys mentioned that yesterday's live stream. I think it's a great thing. Again, if you're cold, they're cold. Sure, there's a couple of breeds like a husky. I had a husky for 16 years. This kind of weather, she said, forget it. I'm going to sit outside and enjoy things. But most animals are going to want to be indoors and enjoy the warmer weather. And please make sure if you do leave their food and water bowls out that they're not frozen. And of course, we're checking on everyone again. That's what we're doing here as a great weather community. We're checking on the elderly, our neighbors. Had some great conversation with neighbors today as we kind of just compared notes from the cold weather overnight. Make sure we're prepared for tonight, your family, your friends. And of course, you can't forget your MySpace connections, right? We made sure we took care of our Tinder dates last night. Now we got to make sure our MySpace connections know about the colder weather, and if someone actually remembers their MySpace login, I give you a lot of credit. And does MySpace still exist? I have no idea. Hey Cole, how you doing? All right, anyone have any specific questions about the forecast? Please let me know in the comments section below. You have a question about a specific area, I'm happy to address that. We'll go back over to our live cameras here. Again, I believe, and of course, we lose some of the stars as they move along the sky at night. But earlier, right as I came on, I think that was Cassiopeia, which is a beautiful constellation there. But the clear skies from the Lane Law Cam. Again, a gentle breeze. Skies are clear. Air is bone dry. Conway we go. The moonlight beginning to fade off into the distance as the moon rises. Earlier, that shot was right there, but you can still see some of the moonlight glistening off of the Conway cam. And again, the note here is that the air is much stiller tonight. We are not going to have nearly as much wind. Obviously, this time yesterday, we had 30, 40, and even 50-mile-an-hour winds. Now, most areas, the winds are less than 10 miles an hour. Yes, there'll be a breeze from time to time, 10 to 15 overnight, but now your feels like temperatures won't be as cold and not as widespread from where the actual air temperature is. Cold fireworks at the attractions. I would assume that they're going on with all of their displays for this evening, but I hope friends are bundled up if you're headed there. If you're a worker, hope you're bundled up as well. And again, for any outside worker tomorrow morning, layers, layers, and layers. Same thing with the kits. If you're just coming into the chat, again, I mentioned throwing it out in the chat. Did you have any rolling blackouts from this morning? Reports here and there that we had some rolling blackouts. And then the other thing is, did you see any flurries in your area? Saw more video today than I expected to see from across areas of especially West Central Florida, where we actually had a little bit of flurry activity. Now, it's more like a little bit of snowflakes here and there rather than true snow flurries, but it was a neat sight. It was really cool to see. Even south of Tampa, they had some of that. And some of you guys have already jumped in and let me know exactly where you either saw some or where you heard that there were some flurries. But again, for those who are jumping in here in the last couple of minutes, would love to hear from you guys as well. Juan says, Zero Seco Energy did a great job. So I have not had it either, but I did get a text message that said, and this is from Duke Energy, that they might have to implement rolling blackouts between 5 and 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, depending on energy usage, because the grid, I guess, is getting, strained. So we'll see. Okay. Again, at the hour, as we head to the 8:30 time frame here, my friends, temperatures are already beginning to drop below freezing in more spots. So the Zephyr Hills area, Dade City is already down to 32. Spring Hill is down to 30. So 32 with a dew point of 27. Again, the air not as dry right now. Inverness down to 32. Crystal River is sitting in at 36 degrees. In the Metro Tampa area right now, let me just make sure I got one thing on here. Yeah, let me do that real fast. Okay. 45 in St. Pete, 43 South Tampa, 41 at both airports. It's 37 in the Dover Plant City area, 37 in Lakeland and Auburndale right now. Bartow in at 39. Kissimmee, St. Cloud 37. MCO 39. Downtown Orlando is already down to 32 degrees. You see Brooksville in at 32 at the bottom of your screen. Titusville 36 there. This reporting station has 37. We've got 34 already here at that is the Weather Service office, KMLB. So they have dropped down to 34 degrees in Melbourne with a dew point of 14. This is going to be a very interesting night because you do have some areas that are getting colder now than what they have been, but there's more moisture in the atmosphere. So there should not be this big plummet in temperatures overnight like we had last night, right? So I'm going to be very interested to see where we bottom off. I think it's still going to be a lot of mid-20s, but just how long is that freeze duration? Because, if you took this at face value, Melbourne is likely to go below freezing in the next couple of hours, and then they could see at least an 8 to a 10-hour freeze, but I don't expect that to happen there. 41 at the Cape, 41 right now in the Port St. John area. We've got 37 in New Smyrna, 36 in Daytona, 37 in Ormond, 36 in Sanford and DeLand. Palm Coast around 36, same thing for St. Augustine, and we're already below freezing in Gainesville and Keystone Heights. Cross City is already down to 27. Got a couple of super chats in there. Hey Juan, thank you very much, my friend. $1 super chat from Juan. Let's get the hearts out in chat. Appreciate you, Juan. Thank you so much for supporting the channel in that way. And Rhea, once again, a fantastic friend of the channel, moderator again, $9.99 super chat. Appreciate Rhea and Juan for supporting the channel. Appreciate all the support from yesterday's live stream. Again, a very simple payback. If you're getting anything out of this live stream, hit that like button for me. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, that's a great way to stay informed. Again, if you have the notifications on, you'll know when I'm live. Being a live only channel, I'm only on when there's something important to talk about and impactful. So have those notifications on. You're not going to get inundated with this channel of those notifications. And I really do appreciate that support. Again, You know, we take that support and we try and make this channel bigger and better, and we've got a lot of that coming in 2026. I'm excited to share that with you guys as we move along. There'll also be more sponsorship opportunities. The Lane Law Firm is a sponsor of this live stream, but there will be additional sponsorship opportunities as we go through 2026. And if you want to talk to me about that, send me an email, cflwlive@gmail.com. You'll find that email address at the homepage of this CFLW YouTube channel. Hey Nancy, how you doing? Hi Mike, how are you as well? What are we talking about here? I suggest braving the cold and turn off your water Main Street down from line property and send it around the freeze, pretend you're camping in front of your home. There you go. Hey, listen, we all got to get through this in different ways, right? Why do I look like a ghost? Do I look like a ghost, or is it just the white behind me? I hope I don't look like a ghost. So again, back over to the advisories, if you guys are just tuning in. Now this time yesterday, all of Central Florida, all the way down into the northwest side of Miami was under this extreme cold warning, right? There's still a freeze advisory and a freeze warning for the northern Miami metro area for tomorrow morning as well. But the extreme cold warning is basically from the Weather Service office in Melbourne. That is the blue that you see. Pretty much everyone is under the freeze warning. The only areas that aren't are going to be the western sides of Hillsborough County, and then Pinellas County, and then coastal Manatee and Sarasota counties, west of the I-75 area. So Bradenton, Sarasota, Anna Maria Island, St. Petersburg Beach, Indian Rocks Beach, Clearwater, Palm Harbor, not going to freeze. Everyone else could, and so you're in that purple, and more than likely everyone else will. But the Weather Service office in Melbourne for the Orlando area reissued that extreme cold warning. Again, the values aren't as cold as this morning, but they're still extremely significant. 14 to 20 degree wind chill values, temperatures, actual air temperatures 22 to 27 degrees. For those of you who are just popping in right now, you guys sent me some photos. Let me show you those. And again, this is a very common theme here across Central Florida. A lot of these views. First of all, the fountains for sure. I mean, a lot of the water features that either the water was not running or it was just trickling, you ended up getting icy bird baths, icy fountains, right? And I saw some video of the fountains at the attractions, even the Universal Ball spinning, frozen. Absolutely frozen. Look at that chair on the left-hand side. I don't know whether that was subjected to sprinklers overnight. It almost feels like it has to be, but look at that chair on the left-hand side. Something from Game of Thrones, like the, the frozen throne of some kind. And then on the right-hand side of your screen, that is what happens when you leave your sprinklers on, especially if they shoot high. It's going to ice up any of the tree limbs, and obviously the weight of that ice bends those tree limbs, and there is the opportunity that some of those tree limbs are going to go bye-bye as well. Peb Mets, and again, I only have your ats now. I wish I had your names. YouTube made that change where it's your handle and it's not your actual name, but Peb Mets, a $10 super thanks. Let's get the hearts out in chat for Peb Mets. Thank you very much, sis. Thank you for your updates. Well, I appreciate you supporting the channel and tuning in. So thank you for that support. Very, very nice of you. Let's get the hearts out, my friends, for that. William says, if you want real weather Palm Bay, weather underground, there you go. Okay. You don't have to pay. It's free. Hey, I appreciate that. You know, Weather Underground is a great resource from time to time to check things out. And many, just like William, have their own equipment, and you can check in and see some of the local community stuff there as well. Hello from frigid Suwannee County, Florida. Sure miss our former home in Manatee County, Perico Island. Yeah, a little bit colder up there in Suwannee County, no doubt about it. Just a little bit farther north, a little bit on the colder side, especially if you get into those rural areas, man, it can get really, really cold. I don't know how close you are like Steinhatchee, but you know, it gets chilly up there, no doubt about it. But welcome, appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for dropping a comment in the comment section. Again, this is why I do this, guys. We have an opportunity to chat and break down things together. You got a question, I'm happy to answer it. So let's talk about whether there's going to be any opportunity for rain to come along for the ride. This is the HRRR model over the next few days. As you would suspect, with this kind of true Arctic air, we're going to stay dry. Temperatures will moderate, back into the 50s tomorrow afternoon and up from there. Still the possibility of a couple of spots Tuesday morning freezing, but at this point in time, I don't expect it to be a long enough duration freeze to cause any big problems. I'll keep an eye on it for you guys. If nothing else, I'll post on the YouTube channel post. So if you're a subscriber, make sure you check the post. Would not anticipate having to come back on live tomorrow night. But if things change, and I do expect it to be something of a more significant freeze, I will certainly do that. But you can clearly see the dry air mass that is in place here. And so we're going to continue to be bone dry out there. Now, when we look at the winds overnight as well, so if I switch this over to wind gusts and I loop this up, you're going to see that the winds are going to be extremely gentle overnight. Again, if you look at your legend here, we have those aqua colors. Those are around 10-mile-an-hour gusts, and likely the air is going to be even stiller right around daybreak. So we are just going to have some really good radiational cooling overnight. So if I take you out here to 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, right, and we take a look at what the winds are going to be like here. These are your maximum gusts, but in most areas, the wind will be less than 5 miles an hour. So a little gust could pick up and be, 10, maybe 15 miles, maybe slightly higher across US 1998, west of 75, coastal Levy, Citrus, Hernando, Pasco counties, back down to Pinellas, but not much. Winds won't be nearly as much of a factor for tomorrow. Temperature-wise, again, I showed you guys my morning lows, but we'll take a look real quickly here as an idea from the HER model as well. You're going to see, again, a lot of spots that are going to be very, very cold. So I believe I have 22 tomorrow morning in Ocala. They have 23 to 24. But again, Ocala got down to 20, Bellevue 24. And again, it's interesting because Inverness is already down to 30. And then you look at the model near Hernando and North, and they're back into, there was a 19 there. In Crystal River, again, lower 20. Citrus County is likely to experience a very significant freeze. The Villages, I don't think it's down to 18. This HER model is very high resolution, and it can take some very local orographic or local features into play as it comes up with its modeling data. But this is just to give you guys an idea. Blue Goose is in the chat. You're going to below freezing around 29. 24 on Palm Coast is about what I have it. Same thing for Daytona Beach and DeLand. That's a little bit warmer. The Orlando area, again, you saw 22 there somewhere, right? I mean, I don't think that. I have 28, and there you see a little bit colder there. Again, off of Lake Apopka, right? Remember, the lake is warmer, relatively speaking. So right along the shoreline, Winter Garden is likely to stay above freezing. Downtown Winter Garden is likely to freeze. Ocoee is going to be 5 or 6 degrees colder. Same thing for Gotha and Windermere. And again, you have to have a huge lake and the fetch of wind coming across it like we would see in Lake Apopka for that to be the case. Montverde will be a little bit warmer as well near the lake, and then Claremont's a lot colder. And again, this is just off of the HER model. I've already shown you my morning lows, and I'll show you them again, but just to give you an idea. And I do take into account this model and others as I come up with my forecast, but it still has some pockets of frighteningly cold air where I might have a 25-degree morning low. The HER tries to drop it down to 22, 23. So just get prepared for that. Again, Tampa area is going to be close. The HER model is colder than me, down to 29. Not expecting a freeze in Pinellas County, but it tries to get St. Pete down there. I think that's overdoing it. I'll tell you right now, I don't expect Pinellas County to freeze with the wind, but you get the idea of the air mass that's still in play for tomorrow morning. So that's just a quick look at some of the temperatures there off the HER model. Go back over to the chat. David asks, should plants be covered again tonight in Plant City? Absolutely, David. Another hard freeze for Plant City. Morning low there likely to be in the mid-20s, maybe the upper 20s. Hit the wrong button again. But please absolutely get prepared for that. Let me go back to that graphic, David, to answer your question here. Let's see if I can remember which one it is. Here you go. So for the Plant City, Lakeland area, I've got 28 with a coldest feels like temperature of 23. The freeze duration here is likely to be 4 to maybe 6 hours. That's a long enough freeze to obviously cause problems for tropical vegetation. You know, as we get towards the freezing mark, we are going to start to see some of that develop very quickly here with the winds being very light. So absolutely area wide. I mean, again, Pinellas County, you might get away with not having to cover the plants, but everyone else, I certainly suggest every prep you had last night, run it right back again for this evening as well. Claire wants to know about cocoa. So for the cocoa area, which by the way, broke a record low, get my sheet of paper here again. Cocoa Beach got down to 27 degrees. Now there's a difference, Cocoa and Cocoa Beach. I acknowledge that. But Cocoa Beach got down to 27. For the cocoa area tomorrow morning, probably 28, 29 degrees, Claire, with a cool feels like temperature overnight of 20. By the time you wake up, I just showed you that the winds are likely to be light enough where it's not going to be as cold as 20, but probably feels like temperatures in the mid 20s. Great questions, guys. I appreciate that. And again, I really do appreciate Juan, Rhea, and Peb Betts for their support of the channel. If you'd like to support the channel as well, jump on in with the super chat, the super thanks. There are other ways to support the channel in the description below. And of course, liking and subscribing to the channel is another great way to help support me as well. So thank you so much. And great community. I love how you guys chat and interact. I jumped in and looked at some of the chat from our continuous live stream overnight that ran last night into this morning. You guys were awesome conversing with each other. Again, you know, if you have any questions, let me know. If you have any tips that you would like to pass along, feel free to do so as well. Record lows are likely to again fall tomorrow morning. Orlando, I've got 28, 32. Tampa will stay above their record. Daytona Beach, I've got 28 with a record low of 32. Again, Daytona Beach this morning, an all-time February record low of 23. It had never been colder in any day in any year in recorded history in Daytona Beach as it was this morning when they got down to 23. And again, for February. So unbelievable there. In Brooksville, 25 after 22 this morning. Lakeland, getting down to 28 tomorrow morning, shattering a record low. St. Pete above freezing, but tying a record low, just like they did this morning. They hit 36, they tied the record. St. Pete I've got at 35 to tie the record again tonight and into tomorrow morning. Ocala down to 20 this morning. I've got them down to 22. Is that slightly warmer? Yes. Would this still be the coldest air in years if we weren't talking about this morning? Absolutely. Sanford 27. Shattering their record low. Now, their records don't go as far back as most cities in Central Florida, so they don't have as much historical context and reference, but that's still quite below their recorded low for the February the 2nd. In Melbourne, 33, the record low, below freezing again, back down to 30 degrees. Again, morning lows across the area, mid, upper 20s in a lot of spots. Not as many low 20s, but still getting cold enough for long enough to cause some big problems. Winds lighter outside. Tampa right around freezing. A little bit warmer in Pinellas County. Pretty much everywhere else, even towards the East Coast. Brevard, Volusia, Flagler, St. John's, all below freezing, at least for some time. You get up to Palm Coast, which, by the way, this morning, is it 22 or 23? 22 in Palm Coast this morning. I've still got them in at 25. How about that? Appreciate you, Rhea. Thanks again. Had 21 in Bushnell last night. Solid freeze, top of my dog's 3-gallon bucket. How about that? Well, appreciate you. Will pipes freeze tonight? Ed, yes, pipes will again freeze tonight. Any preps that you did last night, I would do the same. Let's just be on the safe side, friends. You know, more than anything. And Ed, if I remember correctly, you live in the Winter Garden area. Now, we talked about how Winter Garden, depending on where you live, if you're close to Lake Apopka, a little bit of an effect there where it keeps areas north and west of downtown Winter Garden towards the lake a little bit warmer than other areas, but I would still be taking all of those preps for tomorrow morning, my friend. Wrap the pipes, drip the pipes, disconnect the hoses, all of that. Run the pumps. Any water feature you have, run those pumps. All right, now I'm clicking all the wrong buttons. Let's see. There we go. I was all over the place there for a second. Basically, I have 3 computers on one computer, And from time to time, it gets interesting. All right, so let's talk about what's happening outside right now. These are going to be your winds over the last couple of hours. Now, again, in the afternoon hours, they were still relatively fresh. So at 5 o'clock, this is a loop over the last 3 hours, we still had some wind gusts that were 20, 25 miles an hour. Over the last hour, especially after sunset, and even as we headed through this 8 o'clock hour, notice how these winds have come down. Now we just have a couple of areas reporting a gust. There's still a bit of wind outside, around 5 to 10 miles an hour, but there's no significant wind relative to what we had yesterday. If we look at the temperatures here at the 8:45 hour here, and again, you're already getting a little bit cooler. At MCO, we have 39 degrees. So 39 in MCO, if this thing will cooperate. Oh, there we go, 39 at MCO, but the wind was 12. And that was actually one of the stronger winds with a gust of 17. Leesburg wind was just 8 miles an hour. And that's what I expect overnight. Most winds to be below 10 miles an hour sustained, and gusts from time to time 10 to 15, but not nearly as windy as what it was. But again, the air is colder now than what it was this time yesterday, because our daytime highs today were only in the low to mid 40s for the most part. Hey, Gaming with Jamie, good evening, my friend. I hope you're doing well. 2 miles from Apopka? Definitely. So, Ed, you're definitely going to want to take care of the pipes. No doubt about it. Yep, I agree with Fiona, no doubt. Hi, Shannon, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. Also, let me know where you guys are viewing from. You guys want to pop in the chat and just say hi, let me know where you're viewing from. I appreciate that. Always love to see where everyone is watching from. You have a specific question about the forecast in that area, let me know. You factor in the more gentle winds right now, and the feels like numbers, again, aren't as spread apart from the actual air temperatures. So instead of it being like, 35 degrees and a feels like temperature of 12, it's 35 with a feels like temperature of 29 or 30. And that's what we're seeing right now. A lot of 20s to right around the freezing mark for feels like temperatures. And again, you'll feel it. It'll be impactful, but it won't be as significant overnight because the winds are going to be lighter. But the freeze will continue to be a big, big problem as well. Arcadia in the house. Hey, Jacksonville. Happen to see any flakes up there in Jacksonville? Duval? Saw a couple of videos out of Jacksonville. NWS out of Jacksonville actually showed some video that they had a little bit of flake activity at their office. Hey, Fiona, 36 in Altamont Springs. Thank you, Fiona. Those are feels like temperatures. Here's the actual temperature here. So Fiona, very close to downtown Orlando, temperature-wise at 37. The Sanford Airport is in at 36. Again, as we hit 9 o'clock, more and more areas at the bottom of your screen and updating in real time on my weather system are going to start to get closer to the freezing mark. Most areas will go below freezing between 9 and 11 tonight. Some areas already have. And it's really been this kind of quick drop in temperatures. But again, there's a little bit more moisture in the atmosphere. So the dew points are up a little bit. So I don't expect there to be this precipitous drop in the temperature like we had last night. And again, the winds were just ushering in that force of Arctic air, right? I mean, that was such a significant front and the winds really told the story. Well, now we're a day removed from that, but the true cold Arctic air mass is still in place. Big ridge of high pressure is centered over our area right now. So it's just exceptionally cool and dry. Again, temperatures, even into the Tennessee Valley are in the single digits right now. And, that storm system is well off of the East Coast. So, we're going to stay on the cooler but dry side because of that. Hey, Lake County. Flores and Jacksonville Beach. Newport Richie in the house. Thanks, Craig. How you doing? Well, 30 right now in Bushnell. So Sumter County's already below freezing. I had a super chat. You had a super chat in Malaysian ringgit yesterday. Like the currency? Is that what you're saying, Fiona? Because that would be awesome. I didn't catch that if I did. But is that what the currency is in Malaysia, is a ringgit? I know some currencies across the world, but that one would be new to me. Yeah, Romans, I'm with you there. Thank God the wind died down. It was so significant last night. I mean, that was really one of the big stories. Hey, Adriana, hope I'm saying that right, 35 in Lake County. Zephyr Hills in the house. Hey, Terry, how you doing? Hi, Williston. One of the colder areas. Had some flurries up in the Williston area, yeah. Close to my neck of the woods. We'd go up there and play high school sports up in Williston, being from Crystal River. They were part of our, so if you were in Malaysia, interesting. You're welcome, Adriana. I guess so. I didn't see that. I'll have to go back and take a look, Fiona. Question, in your opinion, is this a fluke or is this to be expected yearly? 2 years in a row, snow in the Panhandle. It's a great question, right? Look, no doubt that we are having more weather extremes, okay? And that goes with the heat, and that has the last couple of years come with some cold. Now, the interesting thing about this is up until this year, even though they had snow in the Panhandle last year, we didn't have a lot of really cold air in Central Florida last year. But in November of 2025, so a few months ago, we had some historically cold air and a big time freeze way earlier than what we normally see. And now we've had the coldest air area-wide in at least 16 years, but there were several cities that broke all-time February record lows. I'm talking about, again, for the entire month of February, any day, recorded history, this morning was the coldest ever in February. So the extremes continue to get farther away on the bell curve. I will say that. I don't know if it's a trend to say we should expect snow in the Panhandle, but again, remember, if I'm not mistaken, a few years ago as well, it was Milton that had, 8 or 9 inches of snow, right? It wasn't just a few flurries. It was significant snowfall. So again, more extremes on either side, more significant hurricanes. You guys know I cover hurricanes on this channel, but also on my Media Mundo channel. Hurricane Melissa this year that hit Jamaica is one. That was a Cat 5. These storms are going from minimal tropical storms to major hurricanes in 24 to 36 hours with way more regularity on a yearly basis than they ever had in recorded history all years combined. So, these storms are getting strong quickly. And so I do expect our extremes to continue to expand on either side of the bell curve, meaning colder and warmer and wetter and stormier. But frequency-wise, it's still a question. But fantastic question with that one, Romans. But I do expect there to be the opportunity, at least, to have these kind of air masses come back into play for us here more frequently. Seems like the Arctic air is being able to work its way farther south than it has. And again, you get into Florida and there's ample moisture with the Gulf and the Atlantic. Again, we're basically a peninsula, able to come through. And if the cold air is in concert with that moisture, you get the flurry activity, or up at the Panhandle, you get some real snow. Shannon wants to know, will there be another cold like this weekend before March? Shannon, at this point in time, 2 things. 1, I have not looked at the extended forecast, and 2, likely no, right? I mean, as cold as it was this weekend, to run that back within a month would be somewhat of a fluke. But I have not looked at the extended forecast. I will keep a close eye on it. The one thing I can show you right now in real time is the Climate Prediction Center gives a 6 to 10 day forecast. So today is the 1st. So this would basically be like January 6th, January 7th until January 10th, 11th. And what you're looking at here is just a banding of what's the chance that you're either warmer or colder than average. So it doesn't take into account the next 5 days. Well, we actually are going to be below average until maybe late this week. But basically starting this next weekend or Friday and over weekend into early next week, we still have a chance to be below normal temperatures, okay? That's what this graphic is showing you. So I can show you in the short term, through about February 10th, that there is the likelihood that we stay below average temperatures. But I haven't done any more homework beyond that. Hey, Palm Coast, how you doing? Boy, 22 this morning, Keith. How about that one? Yeah, Fiona, I hear you. UK gets hammered with a lot of this. And the wind, my goodness, the wind. Seems colder than the temp reading. It can. I mean, I hear you. It feels like that some. Especially, are you in Chris River, my friend? Because I always felt that way growing up. It always felt colder. The air coming off of the bay just always felt colder than what it really was reading out there. He said, failed to mention, turned off my main before the storm hit. Just discovered your channel. Great job keeping the folks informed and staying prepared. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate that. Yeah, again, guys, whatever preps you guys made last night, run them back for tonight. And again, as we're hitting the 9 o'clock hour here and these temperatures are updating in real time from the sites, you're just going to see more and more areas snaking back down towards freezing. So let me, again, those are the freeze pictures. We showed you those. Let me go back over the scenario for tonight. Again, not as cold, but that is all relative. I mean, it really is all relative, because if you just axed the last 24 hours, this would be the coldest night for many in years. Still a long duration freeze for most spots. Many areas will experience around a 6 to 12 hour freeze. I'll say the duration of your freeze was probably the hardest part of the forecast for me to put together. A little bit more variables into just how quickly temperatures would drop or whether they'd stay steady overnight. But most areas in Central Florida, outside of some of the western coastal areas, are still going to see a significant hours long duration freeze. It could be anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. Again, places like Ocala and Palm Coast and Pearson and Astor, interior northern areas, even towards the coast last night, were well above 12, 14, 15 hour duration freeze. Got down below freezing at 8 to 9 o'clock last night, didn't go above freezing this morning until 11 or even noon. I mean, there were some areas even at noon, at lunchtime, that were still 31, 32 degrees. You know, highs today were struggling to get into the low 40s in some spots. Near record or record lows. I already showed you that basically all areas, again, outside of Pinellas County, will have an opportunity to see another daily record low tomorrow morning. So the extreme cold warning in effect for most of the Metro Orlando and I-95 corridor, but it really doesn't matter because it's just the Weather Service offices, you know, choosing whether they want to issue it or not. The Melbourne office did, so that's why Orlando's under the extreme cold warning. And it's for the wind chill values. It feels like temperatures overnight that will be in the mid and the upper teens. By daybreak, the wind should be light enough where those feels like temperatures should be back into the 20s. But look, it's still cold, right? The winds, again, not a significant factor overnight, so the feels like temperatures not as cold as this morning. And obviously dangerous boat conditions, gale warning, small craft advisories, all the things out there. You know, again, even commercial fishermen, I hope they're being able to take a break or at least being very cautious if they're heading out to the open waters. Here's what you need to do tonight. Minimize that time outdoors tomorrow morning. You can absolutely be outside. If you just don't want to tolerate the coldest air, wait till the afternoon. There'll be sunshine, light winds. We'll be back into the 50s. It'll actually feel pretty pleasant by Monday afternoon. Certainly cooler than average. Still may not be a great day to get around to golf or tennis, just depending on how cool, cool tolerant you are. I would probably go out and enjoy it with the sun on my back, but, you know, to each their own. But in the practical sense overnight, let's take these preps to make sure we don't have any property damage. Disconnect those outside hoses, drip the faucets. You can insulate the pipes if you want to. Just wrap a towel around the faucet, you know, right around that pipe nearest where it comes out from your home. Turn off the sprinklers, otherwise you're gonna get yourself a sheet of ice. Cover those sensitive plants. Move them indoors if you can. Run all of your water features. Run your pool. Run your waterfall. If you have solar panels, make sure that they are on. Make sure water is flowing through them. You don't want to have still water in those, especially if they're on your roof. Those will be some of the first things that freeze and crack. By the way, if you had any damage last night, let me know in the comments section below, right? If you saw any damage or you had rolling blackouts, let us know. Just trying to get people prepared for what to expect for tomorrow morning. Because, you know, if there was an issue at your home last night, you can let us know and maybe we can learn from that, right? You know, maybe we can also kind of figure out what are the things that we want to do for tonight. And again, you know, the opportunity in some areas where we've had reports of some blackouts and potentially even overnight into tomorrow morning, some electric rolling blackouts might be required. I personally got a text from Duke Energy that said, hey, if you can turn off all non-essential electronics, the energy grid is really getting, strained right now, and we might have to do rolling blackouts tomorrow morning from 5 to 9 a.m. if there's too much of a strain on the grid. So just throwing that out there. New thing from last night after doing some research, if you have a backflow preventer, which I do in my neighborhood, right, you might want to wrap that. That's an outdoor thing that has a brass valve. It can freeze up. Typically it doesn't, but if you just want to be on the safe side and wrap a towel around that valve, you can do that. Please remember your best friends, your pets, bring them inside. If you're cold, they're cold. If you do leave their food and water outside, just make sure it's not frozen. They don't want to be licking up a piece of ice out there if they're trying to get some water. And of course, we got to check on everyone, right? We got to check on the elderly, the neighbors, the family, the friends. We did the Tinder dates last night. We're doing the MySpace connections tonight. So make sure you log on to MySpace. Make sure you check out all your connections and let them know about this cold weather here in Central Florida. That, if there's anything I can pass along from this live stream, it's you got to reach out to your MySpace connections and let them know about this freeze. Got to. Daniel says 26 right now on Vero Beach. You are so right. Kayak Three Sisters today. The wind and cold was insane. Never would have thought that in Florida. Well, Den Fours, I grew up on a canal about 2 canals from Three Sisters and used to go there all the time. If you went to the Humpback Bridge, as you go to the bay into the canals, my home was on the first canal on the right. That's where I grew up. Three Sisters, which by the way was privately owned back then, but I got to enjoy some time there. Now it is owned by the state, and it's really good to see that a lot of folks get to enjoy that pristine water. Beautiful area. Also got my scuba certification there in Crystal River as well, which is a beautiful place to do that too. Okay, so back over to our live temperatures here, guys, as we hit 9 o'clock. Let's see if anyone else has dipped below freezing here. Just want to make sure I've got these up live. Zephyr Hills is down to 32. Again, that's the interesting thing. So here's what I want to do. This is an interesting exercise. I'm going to take this loop and I'm just going to bring it down to an hour, right? So we're basically looping from 850 to 950. And so let's just see together how far temperatures have dropped in just 1 hour. Looks like MCO has come down 2 degrees, where the Executive Airport has held steady. Sanford has held steady. Daytona Beach has come down a degree. Ocala, down a degree, 32. Inverness now holding steady at 32. Zephyr Hills at freezing. Not much movement between 8 and 9 o'clock in Tampa. Some of the rural areas there, Plant City down to 37, down to 36 now, including Brandon and Seffner. Yeah, that wind was like Pennsylvania, wasn't it? I hear you. Yep. Dog inside, water bucket outside. Super Bomb Check, you got to check those MySpace connections, man. You got to. Again, 26 in Vero Beach. Obviously, I don't have a report there, but 36 closer, perhaps more inland. That's interesting. Look, and I absolutely believe it. There can be that kind of big disparity between some of these reporting stations, which are typically in a little bit more urban areas or at airports. Now, they put them in grassy areas and they try and keep them, outside of the concrete jungle. But outlying rural areas in this kind of situation, sheltered locations, especially outside of the wind, can absolutely be several degrees colder than the nearest reporting station. It happens all the time in this environment. Temperatures as important damaging as wind hitting the pipes. It's mainly about the temperatures, Juan, okay? When you have temperatures below freezing, you are going to get either advection ice developing, and that's literally with the air mass coming in below freezing, accreting the ice on those surfaces, or what we call radiational freeze. The air is still now, the air is below freezing, and now you're going to get ice crystals forming on surfaces as well. Frost can develop even with temperatures slightly above freezing. Frost is not going to be as thick or as significant of an impact, but we are well below freezing here. And so it's more about the temperature and the duration than anything else. Now the wind is going to aid obviously in pushing in some of that moisture and can allow there to be additional ice accretion in some spots. But typically in Florida, especially tonight with the wind not being a factor, it's about the radiational cooling and the fact that temperatures are well below freezing in so many spots for so long. But great question. Hey, Mr. Gosen, 25 right now, 18 this morning. How about that? 18 degrees. Yeah, it is a beautiful area. Well, thank you. I appreciate you subscribing. Yeah, it's a little bit different from when I grew up there, no doubt about it. But I got a lot of friends who still live back there, and locals, and they treat it right. But it is an area where it's good to see tourism coming in, but just if it's treated right, because that's such a beautiful natural area too. It can be, Juan. Yes, it can be. But you asked me if it's more important temperature or wind. The answer is temperature. Can the wind be a contributing factor? Absolutely, yes. But if you have a 40-degree temperature with the wind, I'm not concerned about the freeze, right? But you got to get below freezing. That's the most important factor. The wind can be a contributor too, no doubt about it. Sure, you got it. Okay. My wife was giving me the, now do you know why that's the case?
Building issues.
Oh, okay. So my wife was just letting me know, and is this just for Orange County?
Yes.
Okay. If you live in Orange County, which is the Orlando area, the Orange County Public Schools has just let everyone know that all schools are open tomorrow except for Dillard Street and Summer Lake Elementary Schools. Apparently they have building issues. I don't know what issues they have, but I was talking with my kids this evening at dinner, and I was asking my wife, I go, have you heard of any school closings? And my kids were like, well, is our school closed? I'm like, no, it's not going to be closed. It's going to be cold tomorrow morning, but everyone in the Midwest and the Great Lakes and the Northeast deal with this all the time. You're going to school. But you never know, right? If there were some issues with the buildings over the weekend, and apparently Dillard Street and Summer Lake Elementary have had some issues. Those schools are closed, but other Orange County schools, all of them are open. I don't have any other information on any other school districts across Central Florida, but my thought would be, outside of hearing something specific about a specific school, the temperatures are not cold enough for them to shut down school in any way, shape, or form. You just got to prepare for the cold weather tomorrow morning. Again, as we talked about, getting the kids bundled up and prepared to get out there. But I do not believe that the temperatures themselves are going to be cold enough that is the reason why any school districts would not have school tomorrow. Yeah, Cole says the rural areas, Yahala 32, the official reporting station Leesburg at 36. Yeah, 4 or 5 degrees, absolutely. You can have that kind of difference between, if you live in a rural area and then what some of the airports are reporting. Again, even though they're not right on the concrete, still close enough, still more concrete around, still a little bit of an urban heat island impact there. How about this 28, by the way, in Zephyr Hills? What's really interesting here is, so let me give you this situation. Last night, the cold front had moved in from northwest to southeast. We literally in real time last night on the live stream watched the colder air and the winds. Remember, the winds were 40, 50 just west of Orlando. Then they hit 50 at MCO. Then they hit 50 in the Melbourne area. We watched the front march in with the wind, and then the colder air plummeted. Now, what you're really starting to see is just these little dots of colder air sneaking up on us, right? Very localized, okay? So it's not as if it's like, here comes the freezing air from northwest to southeast. It's that this cold air mass is situated right over us. And depending on area and on local features, we're just seeing a couple of spots drop down real quick. Zephyr Hills is the latest one, getting down to 28 degrees. I mean, again, let me be clear. We have dropped 4 degrees below freezing at 9 o'clock in Zephyr Hills in a very short amount of time. They were at 33 degrees at 8 o'clock. They somehow have come down 5 degrees in 1 hour, where other areas, if I loop this up, this is just a 1 hour loop. Your time frame is right here. Other areas didn't budge temperature-wise, and Zephyr Hills goes down by 5 degrees in 1 hour. When I talked about that, coming up with the freeze duration was the hardest part of the forecast for tonight, this is the reason why. Because of the air mass that's in place. It's not the front coming in, it's not the day of the front, it's the day behind the front. The cold air is in place, and now it's a lot more localized features. But this is a great example of what I was talking about, where a lot of areas didn't budge temperature-wise in an hour, and Zephyr Hills bottoms off by 5 degrees. Maybe that happens to your area between 9 and 10, or 10 and 11. We'll see. Again, appreciate all the support of the channel. If you guys are here, thanks so much for taking a quick second, hit that like button. Look, I know I asked you guys to do it. I don't ask you guys to do it a lot, but it's important because the more you like the channel, the more you interact in the chat, the YouTube algorithm loves that. And the way we grow is that more people who don't know about this channel see it on their homepage and they check it out. Maybe that's how you found the channel this evening. If you are a first-time viewer or if you are the longest-time viewer, I thank each and every one of you guys. If you want to share this channel with your family and friends to let them know when there's impactful weather across Florida, then I'm going to be covering it live for you guys. Whether that's this freeze that we're talking about, whether that's severe thunderstorm or tornado warnings or tropical storms or hurricanes, any impactful weather, I've got you guys covered. Live only channel, so make sure you subscribe and have the notifications on, because again, you're not going to get hit and inundated with a lot of notifications from me. I'm on when there's something to talk about, so jump on, check it out. Maybe it's something that is not going to directly impact you, but for a lot of areas here in Central Florida, you're going to be impacted by this freeze again. So thanks so much for liking and subscribing. For others who have also found other ways to support the channel, be the super thanks and the super chat and the super stickers and the description below. I do appreciate that for you guys as well. One says 0 wind this morning. Okay, I still had a pretty good wind here in the Orlando area. It was fresh, no doubt about it. All right, so we're watching these temperatures right now at 9 o'clock, getting a little bit colder in some areas below freezing. I want to run over everything for you guys one more time. So we'll start here with the freeze duration in hours. Again, hardest part of the forecast. What I do expect is that the freeze will be long duration and significant in most spots. 6, 7, 8 hours in Metro Orlando. More than likely, the farther north and west that you go, a longer duration freeze, but it will be very area dependent. But again, outside of just a couple of hours where you might get away with not having to take the cold weather preps, I mean, if you only froze for an hour or two, you need to take all of the outdoor cold weather preps, regardless of whether you're going to freeze for 4 hours like in Titusville or 12 hours in Ocala. It's just that the significant impacts could be felt more widespread and deeper, if you will, in Ocala, Bellevue compared to Titusville and Mims. But so many areas below freezing for another long duration. So around 6 to 8 hours in Metro Orlando, 10 in Palm Coast, 11 northern sides of Lake County, 9 in Leesburg, 11 in the Villages, around 12, again, in the Ocala area, Crystal River, Lecanto, Homosassa Springs, Inverness, Floral City, about 10, Spring Hill, Brooksville, about 8, 7 in Zephyr Hills. But it's interesting, Zephyr Hills is already below freezing. So that means Zephyr Hills, if I'm right, would have to go back above freezing at 3 a.m. Again, the interesting thing is there's a little bit of moisture trying to come back in. Could temperatures slowly climb in a couple of spots overnight? It's not out of the question, but it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with these temperatures here. It is really kind of a cool thing to watch overnight. 6 hour freeze in the Lakeland area towards Plant City. Again, in Tampa, right around the freezing mark in downtown, but north and east, Brandon, Mango, Seffner, Wesley Chapel, Carrollwood, Citrus Park, Odessa, places like that, likely to see a few hour freeze, anywhere between about 2 and 5 hours, just area dependent. Pinellas County, coastal sides of Sarasota and Manatee counties will not freeze. Those are the only spots I'm not expecting a freeze, but still morning lows there will be in the mid 30s. Again, well, we've already looked at this a couple times. I really want to show you guys this. Morning lows feels like temperatures. Mid, upper 20s in a lot of spots, a few spots in the lower 20s, a couple of spots in Tampa near freezing or slightly above, like St. Petersburg 35, Bradenton, Sarasota, sorry about that, a little bit south for you guys to see, but 34 is my morning low there. Palm Bay, Melbourne 29, Titusville 30, Deltona 25, Altamont Springs, Lake Mary, Sanford 27, 22 in Ocala after 20 for the morning low. Again, it didn't get warm today, so we're not starting off with a big peak here, guys. A lot of 40 to 45 degree daytime highs for today, which, by the way, is going to be breaking the coldest daytime highs for February 1st in most areas, the coldest maximum temperature as well. So not only did you break record lows this morning, you also, if you will, broke the minimum for the warmest it got on February 1st as well. In Metro Orlando, 25, 26, 27 degrees in most spots, 28 in downtown, same thing at MCO, 26 in Apopka, might be a little bit generous, could be 25, 24 in a couple of spots. Claremont, Montverde, Mascot, Oakland, 27, Celebration, Lake Buena Vista, 27, 28 degrees, so the attractions again, well below freezing. Minimum feels like temperatures, upper teens to the lower 20s. Again, that minimum is likely to be overnight, and the air even settling in a little bit more by daybreak. Winds so light that I don't expect there to be a big spread between actual air temperatures and your feels like temperatures into the daybreak hours of Monday. And then for the Tampa Bay area, Lakeland on over towards Plant City, Bartow about 28, Zephyr Hills 26. We'll see. We'll see if they stay that warm, if you will. Already down to 28, Carrollwood 27. Downtown Tampa 32, Brandon 29, Ruskin below freezing, but then west of the bays, St. Pete 35, Largo same situation, Pinellas Park, Clearwater 36, Palm Harbor, Tarpon Springs, Hudson, Newport Richey in at about 34. My kids just shouted 6-7. If my sons heard that, they would have as well, Cole, trust me. My older son, who's 13, I can't get him to stop saying it. It's a problem. I love it, but it's a problem. Okay. Does wind chill feel like just affect people or that temp for inanimate objects? It is what it feels like to you, humans. It takes into effect basically, what it feels like on the body. That's why it's called the feels like temperature. I love it. All right. Does anyone have any questions about the forecast? Again, freeze. We got to take every precaution that we did last night. Same situation for tonight as well. Winter Garden down to 35 already. And again, just letting this loop over the last hour. I've just been kind of watching this. Again, a couple of spots down a few degrees. Now Daytona Beach has dropped one more degree down to 34. Ocala is already in at freezing. So I think this is all playing out fairly what I expected, where between 9 and 11, a lot of folks are going to go below freezing. Some are already there, but most by 11 p.m. will be at 32. And then it's just how long you're going to be below freezing as we go overnight. 29 in Dixie County, Old Town. There you go. Cold up there in Dixie County. Appreciate it. G-Wit. When does it all end? Good question. So for Monday night, tomorrow night into Tuesday, there could be a few more spots that drop below freezing, but it shouldn't be significant. I can show you that real quick. I'm going to go back over to my HER model. And I'm going to go to, give me one second here. I'm going to go to Tuesday morning. All right. So this is morning lows on Tuesday from the HER model. I don't have a graphic for you guys, but you get the idea, right? Juan, I think you're up in Ocala, right? You are going to go below freezing again on Tuesday morning. Ocala, the Villages, Denellen, likely to be the areas that could drop into the upper 20s again. There will be another freeze in these areas for Tuesday morning. The duration will not be as significant, probably 2 to 4 hours, maybe slightly higher in a couple of spots, but you start to get south of there and it really is probably touching 32 in a lot of spots on Tuesday morning, but not a significant freeze, not a long duration freeze. I mean, look, the Her model still has Daytona Beach in below freezing. Same thing for Palm Coast and Flagler Beach. Orlando is likely to be right around freezing. I'm a little surprised it's around 30. It will more than likely be right at 32. If you want to, for Tuesday morning, if you've got the plants covered, just leave them covered. It's not, again, we don't have to do this very often. It might stink to have to do it 3 nights in a row, but if you've already covered them, you can just leave them covered. Still, I would still be running the pools in some areas here, right? Have that freeze protect on. But again, this is going to be for Tuesday morning. Interesting, towards I-95, we have a couple of spots near freezing. Then you have the impacts as the winds will start to come back on shore in coastal Brevard County. And look how much warmer it's going to be in some areas here. Merritt Island should stay above freezing. And then it's very close, Pineda, O'Galley, Satellite Beach. It'll all be dependent on the wind direction. Any east wind in your area in Brevard County and along the East Coast will stay above freezing. But you get the idea. Again, still some spots below freezing here. It's interesting that they have Northern Hillsborough County. Tampa again back down to 32. Freezing is not going to occur in Pinellas County. Lakeland again. So not as significant into Tuesday morning, but there will still be some spots that fall below freezing, but the duration will not be nearly as long as what we had last night or tonight and into Monday. So no freeze tomorrow night. So tomorrow night, very close, Fiona. I think you probably asked that before I got into it. Very close. This is Tuesday morning. You're looking at the model, 7 a.m. Tuesday morning, very close. You still might want to take those same cold weather preps if you really be on the safe side. The one big difference is, even though we're going to go below freezing in some spots on Tuesday morning, the duration is not going to be nearly as long. And that's been the big story last night into this morning and tonight into tomorrow morning, is the duration of the freeze. Again, just because you hit 32, you don't snap a finger and you don't get a freeze. It's about how long you stay below 32. That's the ultimate problem. Okay, so one more look at our temperatures here. Again, Inverness still at 30. Crystal River has dropped down to the freezing mark. So Crystal River now in at 32 as well. 9 o'clock in Citrus County is basically below freezing as we speak. Brooksville, Spring Hill 30. Leesburg 36. MCO still holding at 37 degrees. That's the loop for the last several hours here. So I'm back down to 1. Okay. Prioritize heat. It's a good idea, right? Obviously. If you could prioritize the heat, keep yourself warm, keep yourself comfortable, I agree with that as well. All right, my friends. So here's what we're going to do. Oh, is the heat pump cheaper for heating than straight cool? I have the heat pump system. That I'm not for sure. If anyone wants to answer Juan's question, he wants to know, is the heat pump cheaper for heating than straight cooling? He has the heat pump system. I don't know for sure, Juan. That's an interesting one, though. Yeah, look, again, we were talking about dripping pipes and stuff like that. Water is not nearly as expensive as electricity, but the bill that you would have to pay to repair a burst pipe is astronomically higher than any kind of electricity or water that would be used. So you're just taking the precaution to get that done. By the way, I've got literally it's a wool, I probably didn't have it high enough, wool plaid pocket square. This thing is literally wool. And I have a tie that matches it. And trying to tie the wool tie and make it look good was always the hardest tie I ever had to tie. How many times am I going to say tie, by the way? And so I'm really glad that I don't have to wear it anymore. But I still like the pocket square. Royal Trails in Lake County. Again, I'm expecting anywhere. I don't exactly know where Royal Trails is in Lake County, Kevin, but anywhere in Lake County is going to go below freezing tonight, likely to be in that 26 to 28 degree range with a freeze duration of 6 to 8 hours. Electric heat versus heat pump. So there you go. I'm not exactly sure. I think most would have the electric heat. I've never personally had just a heat pump, so I wouldn't know. Yeah, for the most part, I mean, it can get sub-freezing. And even the Keys from time to time, Randy, see some interesting weather. But yeah, they're the true tropical environment, no doubt about it. Okay, friends, I think we've done a good job here tonight. Again, just coming back on to talk about the significant freeze again tomorrow morning. Obviously, hopefully you're more prepared than what you were last night, or you're fully prepared again like you were as well. I think it was awesome. We had a great conversation about what you guys need to do to be prepared, and that you guys have an idea of how cold it's going to be again for tomorrow morning. Do expect temperatures to moderate as we get into Monday and Tuesday, but again, for some spots, there will be some areas below freezing again. I'm not anticipating having to go back on tomorrow night to discuss it, but if there's enough of a significant freeze, look out for a post. I'll put a post up on the page and you guys can check that out. So again, not expecting it to be enough of a widespread hard freeze out there. But of course, just like I did last night, when I get done with this live stream, I will start a brand new live stream of our weather system, our graphics, and our live cameras that will run continuously overnight. You guys can check in at your leisure. What's going on with your area, temperature-wise, wind-wise. Check out the live cameras. Again, updated graphics for you guys. Chat will be running. Fantastic music. Typically in the chat, most of the chat is about the music, but if you want to jump in the chat, we have some of our moderators from time to time. Happy to answer questions for you guys as well. I'll jump in from time to time as well, monitoring that. But that will play all the way through tomorrow morning. So if you go to bed tonight and you want to wake up tomorrow morning and check out the temperatures in your area in real time, you can jump onto that live stream and it will be running for you guys. Chesapeake down to 31 degrees already. So there you go, already below freezing. Okay, first of all, please remember this live stream has been sponsored by the Lien Law Firm of Central Florida. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. You don't want to think about it, but if you happen to get any damage from this freeze and you have to go through the insurance claim process, they'll walk you through it. With the free consultation and policy reviews, you got nothing to lose. You want to support someone who supports the channel, check them out by going to lienonmelaw.com. Thanks again for liking. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for all the super chats and the super things. I appreciate that support in that way as well. Appreciate all the moderators and all of you guys jumping into the chat and letting me know what's been happening in your area. Again, it's another freezing night here in Central Florida. Let's make sure we're all prepared. Coming up in a couple of minutes, the new live stream that will run overnight where you guys can keep abreast of what's happening in your area. Thank you to all my friends for tuning in. I appreciate you guys so much. Have a great rest of your evening. I will be back on live the next time there is impactful weather here in Central Florida. Until then, take care, my friends, and I'll see you soon.